Greetings once more and welcome on the platform of diversity and conflict of diversity. Today we are going to look at collective identity in relation to a state. We have seen that diversity entails a lot, but now states are struggling to build what is known as collective identity. What then is collective identity? Collective identity is when there is a persistence of institutions, symbols, goals that create national consciousness, where the people think that they are represented in it. They are represented in the institutions. They are represented in the symbols. They are represented in the goals. And that brings some sort of national consciousness. In order to see it, we will first of all understand the three phases of the edifice identity as it is related into the African context. Remember, I once said we have to create some distinction between the perception of identity in the Western world and identity in Africa and other parts of the world. Since Africa, for example, was born from decolonization, identity has become a very strong issue. And now I'm going to break it into the three phases. The edifice identity will be looked at from three phases. One, it is what we call who is an African. In Africa, it is easier for Africans to identify themselves as Africans. They like to say, I am a Pan-Africanist. And when they say so, they are proud of being an African. So they pay more attention by introducing themselves to people as Africans. The other phase is at the bottom, what we call be it clans, ethnic groups, or tribes. It is easier for Africans in different countries to identify themselves either using their clans, their tribes, or their ethnic groups. Using the example of Cameroon, if we are talking at the national level, it is easier for Cameroonians to say, I am an Anglophone or I am a Francophone. Then when we go to the subsystem, it is easier for a Cameroonian to identify him or herself to either Ngemba, Bakwere, Bulu, Pearl, Hausa, Baka, etc., etc. Because people are more attached to their ethnic groups or to their clans or be a tribe. Now, in the middle, where you have Africa at the top and ethnic groups or clans or tribes at the bottom, in the middle you have states. And as we said earlier, the concept of state was exported to Africa. So until now, it has been difficult for Africans to build and attach themselves to their states. It is easier to attach themselves to Africa. It is easier to attach themselves to their clans, but very difficult to attach themselves now to the state. If the institution does not represent part of the people feel assimilated or ostracized. And collective identity now has a problem. So diversity now has a problem. Furthermore, we'll look on how people will decide willingly to attach themselves to the state. They will pay their taxes to the state. They will work for the state. They will interact and do everything, sacrifice their lives for the state once they are convinced that their interests are in the state. The state carries their interests. At this level, people tend to attach themselves more to this issue, the statehood, and that is what we call statehood. The next question I would like to ask is, how is this collective identity manifesting? How does it manifest? It manifests in a way where you see people will always differentiate themselves with people of different countries. They'll attach themselves to their national teams. They'll attach themselves to the embassies abroad. They'll attach themselves to all the symbols. They carry their symbols everywhere because they are proud. They see themselves attached to their state. So collective identity is what each and every state is struggling to build. And in it, whether you are coming from the north, the south, the east, or the west, what happens? You can sing the very song. You can recite the very rhymes. You can answer the very questions. And you can describe issues the very way. At that time, you are identifying yourselves as one people. If not as one people, but as different people who have come together to build up an identity. At times, we see it is embedded in nationalism. That is when the people have been brought up to understand that they have to fight for their state. So nationalism becomes now a very strong issue. Collective identity is very important, especially in pluralistic states where we have different identities. And in order to do this, justice has to prevail. Transparency has to prevail. Recognition of all, respect of all, and acceptance of all. When this is done, the different people will come up now to build one identity at a national level. But that does not mean they exclude their different identities from where they are coming. So they maintain their different identities, they maintain their different values, but they bring up other values that will make them see themselves as one people living in one state. If you enjoyed this for today, I will invite you to join me same time next week. Goodbye.